Hello, my name is Robert Vaughn. I am with Dweck Properties and am recording this presentation in advance of the first SPRC meeting for a proposed site plan application at Crystal Towers. I'll be joined in this presentation by Ben Yance with BKV Architects, who will be going through some of the design aspects of the proposal a bit later. The fundamental goal of the application is to transform currently underutilized surface parking into critically needed new housing in Crystal City, just blocks away from the metro and adjacent to the first phase of Amazon's HQ2, while also adding approximately 27,000 square feet of ground floor retail that will help to activate the East Street corridor and connect down to 23rd Street. Consistent with the topics for the first SPRC meeting, in this recording, I will be covering the site location, provide an overview of the property, discuss the building heights included in our application and how they relate both to zoning and policy guidance, and provide an overview of the proposed program. Then Ben Yance will walk you through the building renderings and discuss the proposed materials, and we will finish with a 3D fly-through of the project that BKV created. This slide provides an aerial view of the site and a location map orienting you to the property. The proposal covers a portion of the Crystal Towers property that is located in Crystal City and bounded by South East Street, 18th Street South, South Fern Street, and 15th Street South. This block is currently improved with 3 existing buildings: the 2 Crystal Towers apartment buildings, the Lost 590 building to the north, and the Crystal Flats building on the southeast corner. Note that Crystal Towers and Crystal Flats are both owned and operated by Dweck, while Lost 590 has separate ownership. The Crystal Gateway Marriott is located across South East Street just to the east of the property. The Crystal Towers site contains 2 existing 12-story residential apartment buildings that were constructed in the mid-1960s and contained a total of 912 units. As is typical of many of the 1960s era apartment complexes scattered throughout Crystal City, the Crystal Towers site boasts a generous site area of almost 10 acres with ample surface parking lots. It is important to note that many of those parking spaces are not currently utilized, and as of last month, over 205 spaces at Crystal Towers were not rented. This set up our fundamental approach to the site and allows us to propose the infill development contemplated in our application while still being able to provide parking to our existing residents. In terms of existing zoning, the Crystal Towers buildings, along with the Lost 590 apartment building, are governed by Site Plan 13, which was originally approved by the County Board in 1965. Through an existing recorded agreement with the Lost 590, Crystal Towers has 130,690 square feet of remaining base density that is being used to support the proposed application. Importantly, we are not proposing a rezoning to CO Crystal City zoning district, and instead we are proposing that this development move forward under the existing RA 4.8 zoning. The RA 4.8 zone permits developments up to 136 feet in height as measured from the average site elevation to the top of the mechanical penthouse. This is a distinction from the sector plan, which measures building height from the average site elevation to the top of occupiable space with an allowance for a 23-foot tall penthouse. Given that we are submitting our application without a rezoning to CO Crystal City, means that while the sector plan is the guiding policy document to help inform development, the RA 4.8 zoning district is the applicable ordinance. As mentioned previously, the sector plan is the guiding policy document for development on the site, but the RA 4.8 zoning district legally controls development on the property. The RA 4.8 zone permits residential buildings up to 136 feet, inclusive of any mechanical penthouse. Looking at the sector plan, the recommendation for building height on the eastern portion of the site is 110 feet of main building height with an approximately 23-foot tall penthouse for a total building height of 133 feet. The sector plan calls for the main building height to taper down as you move east to west across the block from 110 feet to 35 feet. While our proposal complies with the requirements of the RA 4.8 zoning district, we have proposed a vision for the block that deviates from the heights map as put forth in the sector plan, and that the proposed building does not taper in the location indicated on the building heights map. Looking further into the illustrative plan that was included in the sector plan, you can see that there were 2 developments contemplated for this block. There was a development proposed at the intersection of 18th and East, which ended up being Crystal Flats, albeit in a different form than was contemplated in the illustrative plan. There was also a secondary development generally in the location of the existing lobby. Looking through the diagrams throughout the sector plan, that second development was shown at a building height and mass consistent with the existing RA 4.8 zoning maximum, which deviates from the tapering shown on the approved building heights map. This slide now shows our proposal and compares it to the location of the tapering zones from the building heights map. You can see that the proposal is consistent with the recommended sector plan height along each street of 133 feet and does taper down as you move from east to west to the interior of the block. However, the distance from Eads, where the taper begins, is at a different location than is called for in the sector plan. While we clearly recognize this deviation, given that we are not requesting a rezoning and are maintaining the existing RA 4.8 zoning, and guidance from the sector plan shows infill development at a height and bulk consistent with our application, we see the proposal is consistent with the vision of the illustrative plan. Additionally, we did incorporate the concept of tapering into the building design and have transitioned the building height from 133 feet to 24 feet as you get to the existing entry to Crystal Towers. The proposal really includes two buildings, an 11-story mixed-use multifamily building and a single-story retail building. The multifamily building is proposed at 133 feet with 209 units and 8,500 square feet of ground floor retail. There will also be 42 new parking spaces located in a single level of below-grade parking. The retail building has an undulating roofline, but a maximum height of 23 feet with 19,000 square feet of retail. We have allocated 30 surface parking spaces adjacent to the retail to support that use. And this slide now shows the ground floor plan, with the mixed-use multifamily building located in the surface parking lot just north of Crystal Flats, and the single-story retail building located in the parking lot closer to 15th Street. The existing entry to Crystal Towers stays essentially in the same location, but is fully renovated while maintaining the same type of circulation paths that currently exist today. The 8,500 square feet of retail located on the ground floor of the multifamily building fronts onto East Street and extends up the pedestrian sidewalk on the south side, which could provide expansive areas of outdoor seating. Loading for this building will be off of 18th Street on the south side of the proposed project. The curb cut at the single-story retail is the relocation of an existing curb cut that has been moved slightly south, with that area now supporting loading operations from both the proposed retail as well as the existing Crystal Towers North building. I will now pass it off to Ben Yonts with BKV Architects to go through the building renderings and highlight some of the design aspects of the proposed project.
As previously mentioned, our goal is to convert the underutilized surface parking into new residential and retail uses that complement the existing development on this block. Our design first identifies the central core or keystone of the existing Crystal Towers. We then establish a relationship between the axis and the two parcels under development. The new residential building connects the keystone to the new retail street frontage along Eads Street, extending the building line from Crystal Flats to Metropolitan Park. This also creates two new courtyards within the block and upgrades the full street frontage north of Crystal Flats along Eads Street. This aerial view shows the two parcels available for development, highlighting the underutilized surface parking. Also note in this view, north is page right. Here is an aerial view of the proposed infill development. You can see the building line along Eads Street, the new retail street frontage, and the massing of the residential tower and how it relates to both Crystal Flats and Crystal Towers in form and in height. Also note the tower stepping down toward the existing Crystal Towers lobby, culminating in a new vegetated roof at the building keystone, visually connecting the new tower to the existing development and west courtyard. Taking a closer look at the design of the residential tower, here are the existing conditions of the entrance to the Crystal Towers apartments. In our proposed design, the driveway entrance remains in the same location, but now has retail uses immediately adjacent, creating an enhanced urban feel. The ground floor transparency creates an identifiable retail zone, and the strong brow line between levels 1 and 2 separates the retail use from the residential use. The rounded corners create a flow into the arrival courtyard. The retail and first 3 residential floors give the building a clear podium with setbacks above in accordance with sector plan guidelines. Materials include a porcelain panel rain screen and a window wall system. Additionally, the inset balconies with these materials gives the residential tower a modern feel. Moving further into the driveway, we have the first new courtyard. This arrival courtyard has a reoriented drop-off, which also serves the existing north and south towers, and provides off-street locations for Uber rides, food deliveries, and package deliveries. You also see a closer view of the building stepping toward the existing lobby with a common porte cochere and new vegetated roof at the building's central core. This courtyard faces north, so we've chosen a blue metal panel that blends with the sky, making the courtyard feel more open. Here is another view of the arrival courtyard. You can see the transition from porcelain rain screen to metal panel with balconies that project from the building using perforated panels in a complementary color, providing texture. The building continues its setbacks as the tower rises, allowing more sunlight into the courtyard. There are expansive planters, which reduces the amount of paving. The use of landscaping, color, texture, sunlight, and vegetated roof gives a connection to nature. Through the porte cochere is the second new courtyard. This is an active courtyard with a green for programmed activities that will serve residents of all 3 communities. The green is connected to the new indoor amenities, allowing for indoor-outdoor programming. Just as it does today, the driveway continues through this courtyard to 18th Street. Moving back to Eads Street, the pedestrian alley between the residential tower and Crystal Flats extends the retail frontage into the site, allowing for cafe seating or other active outdoor retail uses. This pedestrian alley also gives residents outdoor access to the bike storage room and the pet spa. Through discussions with staff, we are taking another look at this area to increase the podium separation to 40 feet in accordance with sector plan guidelines. Here is a view of the proposed development from the existing west courtyard. The central core is articulated with a new vegetated roof, visually connecting all 3 towers to the existing west courtyard. The new tower also matches the height of the existing north and south towers. Moving to the retail site, the existing conditions include a narrow sidewalk, sometimes as little as 6 feet wide, and surface parking beyond the sidewalk. In the proposed retail building, there is window transparency with the expansive storefront, and the addition of brick piers creates a rhythmic retail frontage along Eads Street. The undulating vegetated roof provides enhanced views for the existing tower's residents. Another benefit is the new modern streetscape, including an 8-foot clear sidewalk, street trees, and protected bike lane.
Thanks, Ben. I will now play through a 3D generated model that BKB created, taking the proposed application and inserting it into the existing context. So here you can see we're traveling south on Eads. The proposed single-story retail is on the right. And now you can see the proposed multifamily building with the very transparent ground floor, porcelain rain screen, and the Resi Tower above. Moving west onto 18th Street, the curb cut providing access to the south side of the building, loading. And now we are moving to go north on Fern, and we're going to go through the existing entry between Lots 590 and Crystal Tower South. You can see how the proposed building nestles very nicely in with the existing towers, and how the proposed building matches the height and bulk of the existing buildings. This view also highlights the expansive green roofs that are being proposed both on the multifamily and on the single-story retail. And now we're going back down to the surface level, going up the driveway coming off of Eads, which will be fully renovated. This circular area providing the same traffic maneuvers that exist today, ducking through the canopy extension, a really unique architectural aspect of the project. There's the south courtyard providing activation opportunities. And now we're going to go through the south side of the building where you can see the expansive opportunities for outdoor retail seating, and then moving back out onto each street. I want to thank you for listening to the presentation and hope that you will be able to join us for the SPRC meeting scheduled from 7 to 9 p.m. on Thursday, February 23rd. Additional information on the project can be accessed through the project page on the county's website. And thanks again for your time.